Hello friends, welcome to yet another session on Power BI. An exciting day, some exciting topics with you, Arun of Employability Plus. Today we are going to see the importance of measures. People say if you master measures, you can master Power BI. That important is measures for Power BI. Let's learn measures in Power BI through Excel. Yes, you heard it right. I'm going to make it very simple for you to understand and practice measures using Excel. We are going to compare Excel and do activities in Power BI. So the learning will be very simple. Let's start. Here we are. Let's get into the fascinating journey of learning DAX measures. So I told you at the beginning, in order to master Power BI, you have to master DAX measures. Having said that, it will not be difficult to master DAX measures. So I'm going to make it very simple to you. I'm going to use Excel also as a comparison for you to learn DAX measures in Power BI. So let's see three things before we move on and have hands-on experience on DAX measures. First thing, let's understand what do we mean by measures, how it is different from his big brother, calculated columns, which we learned in the previous video, right? Why did I say big brother? Because it has a close relevance with measures, right? When you say measure, we are referring to calculated value. Anything you calculate using a sum or average or a count, let's say count of orders, sum of the quantities sold, sum of the revenue generated. These all reference to calculated value because these are the aggregators which are required, right, for any business success. In order to be a successful business, what is important? The bottom line has to be very good. We are talking about the profit. Do we need to measure all those things? Yes. Do we have a scale for that? We are going to use a measure. And as I said, measure is a calculated value. The important thing is it can dynamically change based on your filter and slices. Have you heard about filter and slices? You might have heard it when you have used, you know, your pivot table in Excel. Now, here we are going to use a pivot table which is called in Power BI as matrix visual. So we are going to use a matrix visual, right, and perform measures. Now, to make it very simple, what I'm going to do is every single exercise we are going to touch upon, I'm going to show in Excel and then show it in Power BI so that it will not be challenging for you to transit from Excel to Power BI. If you are an Excel user, you have an advantage. You're going to do this one immediately. You're going to do it in Power BI so that learning will be unlimited, right? So the let's get into this and learn more on this, right? So when I say measures, we have to understand its key features. Why not calculated columns? You might have question in mind. Calculated columns are similar, to measures, which we have learned in the previous video. Why should I learn measures? Why not calculated columns? Calculated columns has its own limitations, and measures can power your dynamic dashboards, right? Powerful reports, which I told you. So first and foremost, we can say it is calculated at runtime. Whatever changes you have made, okay, the changes will get updated on a runtime. That is one. And you don't need to create an additional column in tables. If you are using a calculated column, you have an option to add a column and make those calculations. In order to add a column, what happens when you add a column? It will add up the space also. End of the day, we want the final number, right? For that, we are creating entire column. right? So because of that, there'll be a more space to the data set, which reduces the processing time. So measures solve that particular problem, right? And you can use DAX for any kind of calculations which you want to do with your database, be it sum, be it average, be it count, name anything. Okay, DAX measures can solve, right? And most importantly, I told you, like your pivot table in Excel, we can use this matrix visual, right? For slicing the data, filtering the data, and measures will power that particular activity, right? So before we proceed further, let's understand how it is different from your calculated column. That is very important. So let me run it quickly. So calculation context, when you see, measures are very dynamic. If you change the filter, okay, if you change the slicer, it gets automatically changed. But here calculated columns are very static in nature because you are doing it based on the column which you have created additionally in the table. Storage does not take up any storage, unlike your calculated columns. Usage, aggregations, dynamic calculations. You can make dynamic calculations use for in measures. Here everything has to be added in a new column, right? And these are the examples which we are going to practice now, right? Through hands-on. So recalculations when the report context changes, when the fly filter gets changed, when you change the filter, when you change the slicer, it is easy to incorporate those changes in your Power BI using measures. That is not the case with calculated. Sounds interesting? It will be more interesting when you start working on these concepts. But what do we have in agenda? Let's understand that first. We are going to see from the very basics of measure and goes to intermediate, and we are going to do the intermediate. So when I say sum, basic sum, how we can use measures, how to use max and sum, how to use calculate option in measures, which we have already used in calculated columns, if you remember. How to use switch. Switch is an alternative for nested if condition, which I told you in the previous video, right? How to use calculate to map, which we used related function in calculated columns, right? And we are also going to use, distinct function to get the revenue per hour. Knowing is important, but doing is very, very important, especially when you are mastering a skill, which is all about doing. So let's, walk the talk. Whatever we are, learn, we are going to learn it through application, right? The first task we have here is using sum. So we are going to see that how to use sum here, right? And I'm going to compare it with, in Excel also. Not very basic sum, but what we are going to do is we are going to use a pivot table in Excel and compare that with matrix vision, right? For measuring. So let's create the measure. Go to modeling where you have an option, new measure. Click on that. You get a formula bar like this. You get a formula bar like this where the formula will come. Let's keep this as, the first task is total of what? The total what we are going to create is total quantity. Let's keep this as total quantity, right? And say, please remember we have to use the sum option, right? For since it's a sum. So sum of, then select the option which is sum of the what? Sum of the total. Total has been already given, right? The revenue total. So we are going to sum that total and then close the bracket. Now what is great in that? We would get an aggregate value, which is the total of all the sum of all the total, right? The entire total, like the total which we have for every single category. When I say total, I'm talking about all the categories total. Now I'm giving okay. This will not come as a result immediately, but it be stored as a formula, which we are going to use it in our visual matrix, basically a matrix visual. Now, for that, you have to go to from table view, you are going to report view, where we are going to create that pivot table, right? So, which is we are already here, by the way, right? Table view is this, right? We have created a value, the measure, right? And then we have come here to the report view. Now, here we are going to have the matrix option. We are going to take it from the visual box matrix option. If it is not available here, it will be here. If it is not available, then you can see on the top. This is the option, right? The pivot table substitute in Power BI. So click on that matrix. The way you are using your pivot table in Excel, same way you have to use it here. Now, what is it we are going to do is we are going to see the the category. We are going to bring it to the rows, okay, and then category is in the row, and then we are bringing, let's say we are bringing the sum of total sales. I want to differentiate what is sum of total sales. Why are we using a measure for that? So let's keep sum of total sale in the values. You get a value, sum of total, and then we also use a measure which we just created, a basic measure, right? Which we created as what the name of it is, total quantity, right? So let's keep total quantity also. Now let's see the report. To see the report, see what we have done is a basic pivot table, what we do in Excel. Same way, drag and drop, we have put it in this using a matrix visual, right? Now, after getting this one, you can just, click this option, focus mode, so you'll get a better visual of that. So look at these two data, both are same. So what we have done here, we have actually used, we have basically, basic pivot table we have used to get this sum of total, which is nothing but drag and drop the sum of total. And we also used something called measure, where we have created a built-in function for measuring this thing. So we got that also. The comparison will be same because both are both referring to one thing. But we know now that we can also have another option in order to bring, rather just bringing sum of total. We can have a separate field, but this field, whatever you are going seeing here, which is called as total quantity, will not be there in the table view. That is the crux. If you are using a calculated column, generally what we do is we right click here and create these information as a what? As a separate column. So that takes up the space. But here in measure, we are going to use it, formula will not have any records in place, therefore will not consume space. Right? So we got this one done. So I hope you understood this, you know, just you understood the thing. Now let's, this you don't need to see in an Excel because you know already. It's a very basic thing what we have done. In Excel also we do the same way, right? Let's move on and see the next exercise. Max and sum, total revenue. Here I'm going to calculate the total revenue, right? I'm going to use both max and sum here. Why do we use that? Let's use this matrix table as a constant table and only change the values. So the total quantity, the reflect will, this table will be constant for all the activities which you are going to do now, right? So that we don't need to change every thing separately, right? Now, in this case, or for better understanding, we can create multiple matrix visual, right? So let's say I want to have sales price into quantity. I want to have a revenue. I want to arrive a revenue, which is assume that it is not part of the table. Okay, this table does not have a revenue. Assume that although we have it right now in total, let's create a measure for getting the revenue, right? Sum of revenue total, which is nothing but sales price into quantity. Let's create a measure, right? You can go and create new measure and say, basically what we are going to do is instead of creating a column, we are creating this particular thing. So we can say equal to measure max. Why I'm using max, I'll tell you at the beginning, at the end. max of the column name. Here in this column name, let's keep the column name as what? The uh, sales price. Because sales price, if you look at for the category of kurta, let's say kurta is the category. Now all the sales price whatever listed here is common for all one category. One category the sales price is common irrespective of the size, let's say. Now so I'm keeping max as a value so that it will take one sales price. So max of, the sales price, max of the sales price. Okay, we are taking one. Otherwise what happens if I use sum of sales price, all this will be multiplied, since all will be added together, which is not the correct way to find out the total revenue. Basically we need to take one sales price into the total quantity, because sales price is common here in this database. Don't worry, I will share the database so you have better understanding of what I'm talking about. So this into sales price into the quantity. So just type quantity, you will get total quantity, right? So you have the option which is cost per, you have the quantity, right? So total quantity is nothing but, I think, just a moment, I think we have something called total quantity, which is a measure which is not correct. We have the option which is quantity, right? So let's keep sum of quantity, select it from here. The formula is very simple. Measure is equal to max, because we are going to take only one unique value here, which is a maximum, that into total quantity for this category, only for one category, which we are going to bring it in the visual, right? So click on that. The measure is created, right? Let's incorporate that in our pivot table, which is here. It is matrix measure, right? Let's say, let's create a separate, or let's use this one, right? Same thing. Drag and drop, change the drag and drop. So how to get this one? So what we can do is back to report. Then you will have this option. Click on this, right? Then what we can do is we can remove the values. Right? Let the category be there. Okay, let the category be there, and then we can bring down this one. What is that? The total. So where is the total we have? The measure. I think measure is the formula, right? So in the same place we have brought, or we have measure. Yes, measure. Bring the measure. So you'll get the total. That is the second one which we have created, which is nothing but the total revenue. Let me rename it so for better understanding. Total revenue, right? So we got the total revenue measure, right? So this is what it is, total revenue measure. Now look at the data. So this is the result. So what is the result? This one. Let's see how it is coming in an Excel, right? So you have a category, you have total revenue. This total revenue is referring to only one particular price and into all the quantities. It happens like this. Let's see it in an Excel for your understanding. Now let's say I have the data set. I'm just creating a pivot table. I'm bringing the category here. So this is what we have done in Power BI. I'm giving a simple example for that. So category I brought in row in Power BI. Okay, you can see that. And then what we have done. And then we brought the quantity. We know the quantity for each, right? So quantity is here, sum of quantity, and the price is common for all. The price is here, which is, let's say, the maximum value field setting, max. So the price for kurta is 750 only, right? So what is that we have done? Now we got this value. Let's keep this value here. Say this into, we got the total. So this is how we do it in a Excel for creating the same thing what we have done in Power BI just now. Look at the data, compare the data with the Power BI, the results. 56,500, got 56,500, and then we have this amount. So the total is matching. So exactly what we have done in the Excel by bringing the sum of quantity and getting the max sales price, which is 750, multiplied. Same thing we have done using Power BI, using measures. I hope you understood the concept of measure. If you want, I'm just showing that formula again to you, what we have done, right? Which is nothing but total revenue. Here, total revenue is equal to max of that particular into sum. So that you don't need to create a separate column. Please remember this one. You can create it in the measure itself. So let's move on to the next third one, using calculate size cell. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use a calculate option where I'm going to sum the values again, the total revenue, but this time for only one size, which is large. Okay, let me start with Excel this time for a change. Okay, in this data set, let's say what I'm going to do is in this data set, okay, let's say I'm bringing the, let me delete this one. In this data set, I'm bringing the total revenue, total sales. Now, this everyone knows. This is a total sale. Now, in this total sale, I want to specifically look at the performance of a size which is large for all the categories. So what we do is we put a size in the filter in an Excel and then say this is large. These values, whatever we are seeing right now, specifically for size large. Am I right? So this particular activity now will be performed in Power BI. So we'll understand how it can be done in Power BI, right? So let's see, create a measure for this. Okay, let's create a new measure and use calculate. A new measure. Let's keep this as large because we are going to see the performance of large across categories. So large and then say calculate. Right? The expression is we are going to calculate what? Let's understand what is it we are going to. The sum of total, right? Sum of total. So sum of total, same thing, sum of the total, which is your uh, the total sales, right? The sum of total sales in the base one, right? It will be there in the base one. Now, this is what we have earlier also have done. But here we are specifically going to mention now when I give comma, okay, let's say I'm giving the close bracket and give comma, the filter option will come. You can see the syntax coming as filter one. So filter one, this time we are going to add what? We already know this one. So we are going to add the size which is large. Let's say, right, bring the size into this particular thing. Size, it is in base size, right, is equal to, we want to have it as large. Size, we want to have it as large. It's similar to your sum if yes. Calculate sum if yes, count if yes. If you had used already in Excel, I think this is not big deal for you, right? And then close the bracket. Your measure is done. Now let's see that in the result. Let's go to the table, back to table, right? And change this one option. Click here, you will get this option. Here change it total revenue instead of total revenue. Let's keep category, let it be the category, right? Let's keep the the last option which we got. Nothing but what is that option we got? The large. Click on the large. So now we got the information which is the performance of large size in across all categories, which is 10,000. You have this amount, right? So this is exactly what we got in Excel. Look at the data in Excel and Power BI. What did we do in Excel? We got the value sum total for each category. Size we have filtered to L. Here we have did the same thing, got the same result, but instead of filter, what we have done is we created a measure. Okay, we created a measure like this, saying that calculate sum, right, comma base is equal to L as a select filter, as a filters. I hope you understood the concept very clearly, right? See, I'm making it very, easy, delaying it. No, I'm not in a hurry to show you this one so that your learning will be very good, right? Let's see the fourth exercise. So far we have seen these three we have seen. Now let's see what is switch, how we can incorporate switch. I told you at the beginning, switch is an alternative for nested if condition in Excel, right? So when I say nested if condition, let's see in Excel, let's see here in Power BI, in measure, let's create the measure, new measure, use the formula which is switch. So here I'm going to give, you know, let for your understanding, let me give as if condition name, although it is not required. Name of the measure I am giving for your reference, I'm giving it as a if condition. Then you can say equal to measure, sorry, equal to switch expression. So the expression is nothing but you need to give an expression, a true. Basically, we need to say that if this is there, if condition, what we give, if a value, if it is meeting the condition, then you want a result. If this is meeting next condition, it's a result. So let's use here a true function based on the condition. If it meets the condition, then it has to show the result. So true, comma, then say the first condition. First condition is if the count. Okay, basically what we are going to do is if the count of a particular category is exceeding a number, like if it is this count, if this count is exceeding 30, then we are giving 10,000. Okay. Now, for your understanding, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this formula thing by including this one difference next step, right? So using shift enter. This is the second step. The third step, shift enter. Let's copy paste this one, like what we do in a if condition. Similar thing we do in if condition, right? For count. Now let's copy paste here, shift enter. See, for nested if condition in Excel, I have given a separate video. It is there already uploaded. Please see to that. So change the values like this can be, let's say, to worry about the title of that thing. It's just an identification thing what we are given, right? So now let's give enter and see how it works. So go to the report view, right? And then change, click here, change this one, remove large, include incentive. So what are the incentives you are getting? Incentives you are getting for Kurta, only for three things you are getting incentive, right? Because only three are meeting the condition. So since we have given 30 for all, I think we should change it. Let's change this incentive to different. Base one category as 30. If it is 30, greater than 30, let's keep this as what? Because most of the quantities are greater than 30. It's all three. Others are not less than 30, right? So let's keep a range which somewhere around 400, I guess. So let's keep this as greater than 400. This is greater than 200. And this is greater than 50. Let's see the difference. Now it is perfect. So I think this is also we have 1000. This is 1000, right? So now the results you can see, it is greater than 400, 10,000, greater than 200. So now you see the difference. So what we have done, we just gave a count, total counts we have taken based on the quantity which we have given. Based on the quantity we have given the incentive. Now let's see how we can do this one in, you know, in Excel, right? I'm not going to use nested if condition because we have a separate video for that. What I'm going to show is the quantity, how it takes, right? So let's see that in Excel. If we have this, yeah, let's keep this filter. Let's remove this filter and keep this as sum of quantity. We get the sum of quantity for all category, right? Sum of quantity for all category. Now the quantity, we don't want sum. What we want is line items only we want, right? Number of not the total quantity sold, but the you know number of orders for each. So here it is 412, 397 and 77. So 412 as per our thing, 412 should get what? 412 should get, as per our understanding, 4 above 400 is 10,000. Is all zero. If for nested if condition, I have done a separate video. So I don't want to write it for this right now, or we can write nested also for your better understanding. Not that difficult to. All you have to do is equal to if this is greater than, okay, what we have done, greater than 400, then we need to have 1000, 10,000, then just copy paste. Okay, if it is greater than 400, it is greater than 200, 5,000. It is greater than 50, then it is 1000. Else it is 0. Close the bracket, 1, 2, 3. You will get the result. So it's the same result what we got here. Okay, we got it here also. I hope you understood the concept very clearly now. Except the grand total. Grand total also we got at the end for both. So the way we are doing it in Excel, same way we have done it using a switch function. Please remember the word switch function. It's an alternative for nested if condition. Hope you understood the concept clearly. Let's move on and see the next exercise. The next exercise we are going to have is using calculator, mapping another table. See, when we want to map a table, another table in Excel, what we do is we use a VLOOKUP function. So here we are going to use a calculate where we are going to again find the sum of value, but this time mapping the next file. Let's do it in Excel, a simple VLOOKUP. We can do a pivot and then later do the similar step in Power BI and understand how it can be done. Right? So when I go to Excel, let's say I have the base 1 and base 2 file. Now I want to take the total value for these categories, right? Only for wherever it is matching with base 2. So base 2 has something called, let's say base 2. Base 1 is there, base 2 does not have a random. So let's put some random number. Rand between, let's divide into two groups, 1 comma 2. So this will be the reference cell for us. Creating a temporary reference cell and between. Now let's say we have a different, for every category there's a different band. Now this, based on this band, okay, we want to do a pivot table. Okay, for that what we are going to do is, we are going to bring this one here using VLOOKUP. Basically we are doing a pivot table for this category total, but only for those which has 1 as a result. So we are doing a VLOOKUP of this comma here, the next one, and get this value, which is 12. Those who want to learn VLOOKUP, I have a separate video for that. It will be easily explained to you. So right now I'm just doing this step so that you know what we are doing, not explaining VLOOKUP here. We have a separate video. Right? Now I got these values here. Now these values have to be considered for our pivot table. Okay, so what we are doing is we are going to create a pivot table now, including this value. Okay, so basically I'm going to get the total sales, okay, for category, but the filter column will be this one, which is a mapping from the previous table, from the next table. So the values will be only for this one. So how can we do this in Power BI, right? So let's do it. Go to Power BI. Okay, let's create a measure, new measure. How do we call this measure? Let's call this as VLOOKUP. Which measure name? Call it as VLOOKUP since it's an alternative. But don't confuse with the VLOOKUP formula. This is just a description. It's not a formula. So formula starts after equal. Right? It's only the type. Right? So VLOOKUP. Here I'm going to use a calculate function. Calculate of what? Calculate of again sum of the total. But this time only for values. Okay, the filter value from the next table, which is what we have to give next table value. Can we give straight away the next table value? We can, right? So we can give uh, base 1. It will come here, base 1 of that field. Last time we used the field in Excel also. The field is nothing but we have that field. I think that field when I uploaded it was not there. Let me see that again. I think that field is missing. It doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm just giving some other field. Okay, in case if you want to add into the table, you can use a random between formula in base 2. Okay, I can straight away add base 2 random between formula if I want. Okay, or there is another option I can do is I can just upload that file again so that you have a better mapping. So we can go to home, Excel, because we have just added this particular thing, right? So we can go get data, Excel, mapping file. I'm adding that base 2, which is nothing but base 3 this time. It's going to be base 2. I'm going to upload it as a new table, base 2. So it will have that random value also this time. And is there. Load it. Right. So once that is done, let's start resume our VLOOKUP option. Yes. Good to go. So of what? Sum of calculate sum of the total sales, comma, then we can give calculate of total sales, and then now this will come, right? So this base 2 now will come. So base 3, in fact, it is now base 2 hyphen coming here. Yes. Here we have the band. This band is equal to what? Equal to 1. Since we have taken the band 1 there, so we are taking it here too, right? So let's include that in our report by going back to the report, clicking on this option, we are going to include the measure we have created measure. Measure name is VLOOKUP. Let's create it. So we got the result. Let's see whether that is matching with our Excel. Yeah, perfectly matching. Right. So both are here. I did a VLOOKUP and got this data done. Here we just did a calculate function. So both are matching. I hope you understood the concept how to create a measure. Basically, comparing with another table. It can be done even without related. Please remember there is a function called related here, but here I have not used it, but I got it done. Right? So I have compared this with Excel. I hope you understood this concept. Let's move on to the last one for today. which is using this only per order, not the quantity, right? So revenue per order. So we are going with the dividing by the order. So let's see how it can be done. So go to measure, the last one for the day. Go to measure, go to modeling, go to new measure. Let's keep it as measure only, name. Let's not break our head on naming. So let's keep measure and then say divide. Okay, divide the numerator we are going to give is sum of what? The total base, right? Comma. The denominator which we are going to give is distinct, because here distinct count we are taking. The reason being we don't want to have a duplication order. Let's say your line items have multiple order. I'm saying the duplications with order number. Let's remove that, because per order we are going to give one what the even if the customer has bought many items, we will be considering that as one order. So we are going to remove those duplications. So we are going to keep distinct count and then say distinct count and say the count. It can be any count. It can be an order ID. Let's keep the distinct count of order ID and then close the bracket of this comma. The alternative is 0. If it is not coming, then it will be 0, right? If there is no revenue for a particular category, right? There is no sales basically, right? So close the bracket, enter, then to report, change this into like this. Now click here, bring, remove this, bring the measure. We'll get the values. These are the average revenue. This is called average revenue. I think just a moment. Let me keep see. Let me see the report. It's an average revenue per order. Is it right? Is this the right thing? Let's see the measure formula again. Or did we use two measure formulas here? Do we have a two measure formula? There is only one measure. So let's see the measure formula. Nothing to worry on that. Let's validate this result in Excel and see whether this result is correct. How do we do that? In Excel, what we can do is we have the data set already. Right? We have that thing, sum of total, but this time let's keep all, not only one category, all. And then you can just, bring the order ID into the sum of total. So you will get the order count. Okay, assuming that these both are unique. Okay, and then say copy paste and see validate this one, this divided by the ID. Now if these two results are matching, then this is how it is. 9416, 11,000, 27,000. Yes, both are matching. I hope you understood. The total divided by the sum of orders is what we have done, right? Count of order basically, because order ID is counted, right? So based on that, we got the result. Here we got it through this measure. I hope you all have understood the concepts very clearly, folks. With this, we have come to the end of this particular session. I hope you had a great learning and understood the importance of measures in Power BI. Knowing is good, but doing is excellent. So I suggest you to practice whatever you have learned in today's session in real life. If not, you don't have a data. I have the data in comment section. I have uploaded. Please download the file and start practicing it. The more you practice, you will get more comfortable using measures in Power BI. So looking forward to meet you in the next session. And before that, I have a request. Please do subscribe to this channel to stay updated and get latest videos. Thank you very much.